Welcome to another episode of Hooper's Delight Podcast. This is episode 7 with Coach AJ, EBC, and Coach Key. Today we're going to be talking about the SIC overall as a whole, where it stands right now and where we think it's going, and just our predictions and things of that nature.
Yeah, lot going on in the SIC right now. Very balanced, like we thought it would be, kind of 2 through 13. Anybody can beat anybody, and we'll talk about that. There's a clear favorite to win the state tournament, not just the SIC district tournament, not just the league, but the state tournament, Owyhee, as we've talked about. We'll touch on them a little bit. But man, last couple weeks we've seen some, upsets, which to you may not be an upset, to me may be an upset. It just really depends where we're at on teams. So let's kind of just touch on these teams, where we think they're at, where we think they can get, and I'll start it off with Rocky Mountain. I'm really curious because Rocky Mountain keeps playing teams tough. They've got guys out. It seems like every game, Turpin's out a game, someone's out a game here, someone's out a game here. And if they can get healthy, they've shown that they can play with these teams. They almost beat Meridian, maybe should have beat Meridian. They lost a close one last week to one of the teams that has been in the top tier. I forget off the top who it was. But Rocky Mountain, what do you think? Is that a team that you can see making a run with Max, Saavedra, Panda, like I said, 6'8" Mason Turpin, guys of that nature? Does this team have the ability, does Coach Ivory have a chance to make a run at the state tournament or the district tournament even?
Well, I would say the district tournament. Let's before we sprint to the state tournament, let's start talking about the district tournament. They played Eagle close, lost by 3. They played Meridian close, lost by 3. And they ended up beating Lapaway, who is one of the powerhouses in the state. Just had a single game record breaker in case why not with the 68. They beat them, but that team right there, they have talented players. They have good size, but when it comes to the level of playing all 4 quarters at the same high competitive spirits, I just haven't seen it consistently enough. They either start off down and then have to work their way back up, or they have a lead and give it away. So I think they can make a run. They'll definitely be a team that'll shock people if you take them lightly. They definitely have a chance. If Mac is going, they're going. I think a lot falls on his shoulders with the playmaking as well as the scoring, and guys like Zach Seeger and Braxton Hansen need to step up and make shots. Those guys are, I think, together, if they all can put that backcourt together, they could really make a run. But again, it's the defensive end. Those are the things I'm concerned about. Can they guard for 4 quarters, consistent, tough, without fouling, and keep their key players in the game?
I really like the addition of Tanner Sweeney. I think it gives them another option, a guy that can score. Especially if it's a high-scoring game, he can fill it up quick. He started the first 2 games of the season on JV, and they pulled him up quickly because I think he was averaging 27, 28 after 2 JV games, and Coach Ivory was like, this kid can help us win now.
Right.
So he's been a bright spot, spark for them. But I agree with you. If they can put it together, they have the guys and they have enough hoopers to pull off an upset or put it together and find a rhythm and make a run. But we'll see. We'll see with Rocky Mountain. Fan of Coach Ivory, fan of a lot of those kids. But you're right. Defensively, they got to get stops. They've got to learn how to finish. They're not finishing games that they could have won, but they're there. Right. They're there. So we'll see what Rocky Mountain does. They're at the lower part of the league right now. Got to beat teams that they should beat. They should beat Nampa. I think they should beat Bora. They should beat Kuna, who beat them. And so we'll see if they can put it together. They got a couple more weeks to do so, but we'll see. So let's jump over to a couple of these other teams who are towards the bottom of the standings right now. You got Bora, Kuna, Nampa. I like Ryan Radford at Nampa.
Yeah, he's the baller.
He can pop off and carry you to an upset win. And then Bora always defends. They're tough to beat at home over there at the Jungle. And then you got Kuna. I'm a fan of Gannon Sice can get going. He's a guy that can carry and you can go beat a team go upset a team like a Meridian or a Mountain View. Not that I'm saying they can beat them, but I'm saying he's the type of guy that could carry them to a win over a team like that.
Right.
What do you think about those teams kind of in the lower tier? Like, do you have anybody in that tier that you think could could potentially pull an upset, get into the district tournament, and make some noise?
I would say more along the lines of Nampa. Nampa, because they're tough, they have size. Their their guard play is really good, and they're physical. And they play people close. They've competed against a lot of these guys, and they haven't backed down. So that would be out of those options for who I would pick. I know Bora has been up and down, really streaky, but more on the downside as of late. And then I think CUNA, with Coach Paul in his first year, I think he's done a phenomenal job with what he has, and he's going to continue to build that program up. So with them, I think it's a little bit more of experience, just under a system and stuff like that. So the team I would pick is probably Nampa that has that. They have more of a size. They play physical. They play closer. And so that would be a team that I would go with.
Yeah, and Coach Paul has done a great job. He's going to get guys to come out there and play for him because of his plug with Culture Shock, and just he was over there at Capitol for a long time, and people want to play for him. Right. Guys view him as a player's coach. Right. He's relational. Yep. He cares about his guys, and so he's going to make a difference out there at CUNA as long as he's at CUNA. Right. Coach Dennis has multiple rings on his finger. Right. He won those championships with Bolt and Magnuson and those guys. Right. Like I said, always defends. They're tough to beat at home. They beat Boise at home, and then Boise goes and beats Eagle. Boise beats Eagle and plays Timberline to overtime. Should have beat Timberline, who's 13-2. So once again, that just shows how balanced the league is. Who's going to show up? Who's going to defend? Who's going to rebound? Who's going to lead? And who's going to have their guys ready to play? But let's touch on Boise. At the start of the year, I had Boise at number 6 in my power rankings, which to a lot of people, they were like, that's high. But then Boise has beaten Eagle. Right. They, like I just said, they took a very good Timberline team to overtime, should have beat them.
They beat Centennial?
They beat Centennial, which is Centennial's only loss in the state of Idaho up to this point. And Centennial is looking real good, a team we both just saw play the other day. But Boise, to me, I'm a fan, and I put them as high as I did because I'm a fan, and you know this. I'm a fan of a team that has a solid, heady, true point guard that can lead. And Luke Soltow, the sophomore, has done an incredible job of doing that. I believe he's averaging in double figures. He's one of the assist leaders in the state. His guys follow him. They understand how to play off him. And then they've got, for me, at this point, the sixth man of the year is got to be our boy Steve. Yeah. And Steve, I don't know. I'm not going to butcher your last name, my guy, but I know Key, that's your guy, Steve. He popped for 26 on maybe the top defensive team in the league the other day in Timberline and off the bench. And then we saw him pop for 22 at Eagle off the bench, and they beat Eagle. Nobody saw that coming. Right. So he makes them relevant. He makes them dangerous. I don't want to see Boise. You got Michael Nance at 6'6", can block shots, can shoot it. You got guys that defend, Duncan Thompson, Gus Ariola, Will Gebhardt. They're tough. They got guys that can play basketball. Those Boise boys are always different when it comes to toughness and their mental, their trash talk. And with Steve off the bench, Steve is he's a microwave. Yep,
that's the best way to describe him. Yep.
Talk to me about Boise.
Boise, from what I've seen so far, just their level of competitiveness has been off the charts because every game, at least for the most part, a lot of people will consider them the underdog. And so for them to fight and scratch their way out of that look now with beating Eagle and beating Centennial, competing with Timberline into overtime, they're kind of changing the narrative of their name and their team. And Steve's been doing a phenomenal job off the bench, just give him the ball and kind of watch out because he's not just a scorer. He can pass and play make. He just has to play free. So as long as they continue to do that and really just get offensive rebounds and move the ball together and play together, I think that's what kind of puts them where they can beat these teams and upset these teams. And they're going to be a team that at the end of this district run, they're going to look back and be like, we upset a couple teams and, potentially might be able to even make it to state. They did it before. Yeah,
so. and that's one of the reasons I had them so high, and I knew it would take them a little bit. But they've got enough hoopers. Right. And, they're tough enough. Right. To make a run and be one of those teams. For me, it's are they going to be able to get into the district tournament? Because they're a team that they went to Bora, scored 28 points and lost. Right. And they went to Eagle and scored 50s and 60s and they beat Eagle, who's hands down the biggest team in the league, maybe the biggest team in the state. So it's going to be interesting to see. It'll come down to who shows up. It'll come down to matchups. It's going to be very fun for us to do an episode having the district tournament bracket, what's going to happen, predictions and all that. But Boise's fun to watch. Steve's one of the most fun players to watch in the league. Soltau as well. If you haven't watched Boise, go check Boise out. They're a good time. They're fun to watch and very competitive. So let's talk about Middleton. Had a chance to see Middleton play. I picked Middleton at the bottom of the barrel as 13th at the start of the year. I apologize to them for that, but I did go watch them play, and they didn't play well against Timberline. Timberline locked them up. Jacob Haney and Alex Coe dominated that game. Were the two best players on the floor. But man, do they pass the eye test. Like, it made sense to me when I saw them in warmups why they played Owyhee to 11 points, 9 points, 11 points. Because man, are they physical. You got Lambert, you got Apple, you got Stuckey, you got Kofed. I mean, who am I missing? Like, they got plenty of guys who look the part, who are physical, long, athletic. They got to find, I mean, the point guard as well, Cornwall. He's 6'3", can shoot it. Like, they're all 6'3", 6'4", physical, long, but they got bullied by Timberline, which surprised me.
Right.
And they responded, talked to Coach Hoyt over there. They responded, and they came out, and I believe they beat Mountain View. After Mountain View had just beat Meridian in the Stinky Sneaker on the road, they beat Mountain View, a team that we'll talk about here in a minute. What's your feel? What are your thoughts on Middleton?
Personally, I think that they're hot and cold, and so they have size, they do, but what is their ability to shoot consistently? And I think that's kind of where they've struggled at is the three-point line, getting those to fall. But as far as physicality, size, athleticism, length, they have all of those. Now it's, when teams crowd in the paint or have more physical guys like Timberline does, are you still able to score? Can you hit enough threes? Can you compete at that level? Teams that change tempo, can you play a slower game? Can you excel at the faster game? So for them, it's kind of like a hit or miss. For me, as far as what I've seen so far this season, I've seen highlight plays from Parker Lambert dunks and Riker Apple dunks where now it's not, the dunk is cool, but can you hit the three ball?
Yeah.
And that's how teams are going to guard you, and they're going to give up. They're going to crowd the paint and let you shoot these threes. If you can't make them, it's going to be a lot harder for you, and it's hard for teams to come and compete and play at Middleton.
Yeah.
Their home gym, which I played very familiar with, I played at, is a hard place for people to play at. So, especially if you're traveling from a little bit further away, and depending on the weather conditions, it might take you a little bit longer to get there. So, but for them, those guys, they can compete. They have guys that'll sacrifice and are a little bit rough around the edges. But for me, it's just consistency on shooting the ball. Are they going to shoot the ball well or not? Yeah,
and they don't have a true point guard. I love Ty Cornwall. I think he can be that. I think he's more of he wants to catch and shoot the ball because he can strap it up. I saw Alex Coe dog him. Right. Alex Coe was dogging him, and he made life difficult on him when I watched them play Timberline, and they were having trouble getting in their stuff when they played a tough defensive team, which actually surprised me that they played Owyhee so close without a guy kind of like that, like a Luke Soltau or a Jace Allen, Logan Hosfite, a guy, Russ Gibson, guys who can get you in your stuff. You're not taking the ball from them. Coe picked him 2 or 3 times, but Cornwall can shoot it. Stuckey and Apple, I think, need to help a little bit more with ball handling and making Cornwall as a sophomore a little bit more comfortable. Stuckey can shoot it. I've seen Apple can shoot it. They have guys that can hit shots, but like you said, consistency is, I think, Cornwall's probably their best shooter. But he's trying to get the ball up the court and get them into their stuff. Right. He's not getting a lot of looks. Right. But I do love Sam Kofed off the bench.
Right.
He's a dog. So let's jump over to a team that they recently upset in Mountain View, who beat Meridian in the Stinky Sneaker at Meridian, which blew my mind, and here's why. And I had a conversation with Donovan Sainer, Coach Sainer's son, the other day, who's helping coach them. Couldn't believe they lost that game at home, especially after how they played against Mountain View at the start of the year at Mountain View. Should have lost that game, but came back and won in overtime, right? Ryan Baker got hot late. They ended up beating Mountain View at Mountain View in overtime, a game that I thought Mountain View outplayed Meridian. So I was anticipating Meridian at home in this rivalry game, the Stinky Sneaker, to blow them out. Didn't happen. They lost on a Brevin Bender SportsCenter top 10 volleyball set tip-in with 0.6 left on the clock, a play that none of us will ever forget. But Mountain View showed with that those guys, they are guys. They can, when you can compete with Meridian, especially at Meridian, you can do something. There's something there, and we know there's something there. Those are all your guys: McBride, Thompson, Curtis, Bender. All these guys are basketball players. They're hoopers. The consistency isn't there, which we thought may happen losing a guy like Logan Hosvite, who kind of ran the show. Where are they at for you?
For me, honestly, it just depends on their effort and their togetherness, not from the head, but from them as players. Are they together? Are they encouraging? Are they supporting each other? And that to me has been the biggest thing for them that's going to propel them to where they want to go, is if they believe in each other, they'll be fine. Those guys can shoot. You got Braden Sherrill, who took over that game and dominated, who's had a great year so far this year. Jake Curtis, he struggled that game. He hasn't struggled very much this season, but he struggled that game.
Yeah.
But if those two can really play off each other, and then obviously you're going to get, what you're going to get with Owen McBride, from defending, from shooting, from just the pure dog and leadership that he brings. Those guys are very well oiled and well rounded, and they have McCoy Thompson, who again took over in the fourth quarter, getting layups and getting to the basket.
He's starting to get it going a little bit.
And he's a guy who, to be honest with you, if you gave him the ball and you said, you know what, McCoy, you can do whatever you want. I trust you. I don't care if you make a mistake, just play. Watch what he'll do. He scored 40 last summer in club ball. He scored 40 the year before that in the summer or in a spring club ball game. I've seen the kid fill it up. He's a little bit slower, but he has great pace. He has great control, and he's a little bit bigger and physical. And he has a variety of ways he can make shots.
Yeah.
So him. Then you got Starnes that comes off the bench, who in the Middleton game hits 4 threes straight and just can fill it up. So they have guys that can really compete and that can put their team in a position to win. Guys that sacrifice stuff like Teague. Happy birthday to Teague today. But a guy like him who is just rough, just a tough kid, will dive on the floor, will get an O board, will push the ball, will control it and do all the dirty work, will defend. So they have the pieces. Now, can they put it all together? And it comes from them. It doesn't come from nobody else. It comes from them. Can those guys believe in each other and bring themselves together?
Yeah, 100%. And I'm excited to see what they can do because they have enough guys and they have some depth. I still view them as underrated. I picked them 8th, and they didn't like that, and I love that they didn't like that. Of course, your guys wouldn't like that, but I still feel they're underrated. And we'll get into that here when we talk about predictions and whatnot. But let's jump over to, let's talk about Timberline. Timberline just had 2 tough games this past weekend. They ended up losing on the road to Centennial in overtime, a game that they maybe should have won, and then they beat Boise in overtime the following day, a game that they maybe should have lost. They're now 13-2. We talked about Coach Noble last episode about what he's doing. My thing is this: offensively, if Alex Coe is not going, they don't seem, because he's their number one option. They don't seem to score a lot of points, but they can win games in the 30s. That's who they've been for years, and they defend well enough. And when they're not hitting shots, they step it up defensively. And because I'm one of those firm believers that defense wins championships, defense wins games, I believe in Timberline. And I think moving forward, as their schedule gets a little bit tougher, we're going to see what they're all about. They got a White Heat this Saturday at Timberline. We're going to really see where they're at. But with a team that is more defensive-minded than offensive-minded, I wonder how they're going to deal with a team like a White Heat this weekend who can score 20 in 2 minutes.
Right.
It's going to be interesting to see. But physically, we saw what Middleton could do. I think Timberline's even more physical, so I'm anxious to see how close Timberline can keep that game with a White Heat. But a big Alex Coe fan. He's going to be a first-team all-conference guy for me. Jacob Haney has had a great year, right? He had 21 and 8 on Friday, and then Saturday, I don't think he started. So I'm trying to figure out what happened there, but if they can stay together, because they got some dogs. Haney's a dog, the twins are dogs, Hines is a dog. They're going to be fine, but they got to continue to defend, continue to rebound. Ryan Bueller's got to hit threes. That's what he does. He hit 4 the other day. And then Alex Coe has got to understand that he is that number one option that they have. How do you feel about Timberline? We've talked about them a little bit already last episode, but where are you at with them?
My thing for them is really if they dictate the tempo of the game. And I think if they dictate the tempo, that's when they have a chance to beat anybody. they do play a little bit slower, but that's what they're comfortable at. And with those brutes in the middle, and it's not just Jacob Haney and the other big that they got, but they have the twins that are super tough kids that will go and rebound, will play physical, will make shots, take tough shots and make them. So they have a variety of pieces. And then obviously Alex Cole, you're a big fan. I'm a big fan, known him since he was young. He's a guy that literally, he hits one, he can go 1 to 6 in a row quick. And, you know, he doesn't really showboat, he doesn't do anything fancy, but he's just consistent and he's very simple. And to me, I like the simple players that they don't have to make it look all fancy, but can get the job done. So with them, it's just, you know, are they going to dictate the tempo? How's the pace of the game going to affect them? Are their guys crashing like they have in the beginning of the season? I feel like when those bigs crash and they get old boards, that's what pushes them to beat these teams and sometimes beat them by a lot. And so that's the big thing for me. I think defensively they're good, the size is good, but can they play in transition? That's what I've yet to really see. And those are the places that I think that they struggle in. And so when they play a team like Hawaii that's going to get up and down, has physical people inside, has the size, are you going to be able to play at their pace? Those guards are pushing the ball up the court. Raz has been dominant inside, so it's like, you know, you're going to meet, you know, the bully. So now it's time for us to really see what you're capable of. If you compete against them and, you know, give them a challenge, you're real to me. Yeah. You know, so.
Yeah, and you made a great point because against Middleton, they dictated tempo, they defended, and they hit shots. And that's why they won by 17, that's not normal for them to hit shots and lock up. It's usually one or the other for them. So I watched them play Centennial on Friday, and Centennial jumped on them, got up 19-10, and then ended up, I think Centennial was up, 8 or 10 at half. And I was with my brother-in-law, Leon, and I was like, man, if Timberline doesn't come out and dictate tempo, because Centennial dictated the whole first half, and that's why it's a high-scoring game. Timberline does not want to play in a high-scoring game. And so they came out and they locked up. They gave up 8 points in the next 10 minutes, and they got back in the game. They took the lead, and it came down to one play. When it was 19-10 in the first half, Centennial had an open three. If they would have hit that, I think they would have ran off with it. But they got a stop, a big stop, got a big bucket, kept it reasonable until half, and then Noble got them together, and they locked up. They just upped their game, and a game they should have won, ended up losing, but then they won the next day. But they're tough. It's going to be fun to see where they're at, but you know their schedule's getting tougher.
Yep.
You know, and so let's jump over now to the Eagle Mustangs, the curious case of the Eagle Mustangs, the biggest, most physically gifted team in the league with Miguel Taylor, Cal Hewish, Sione Perkins. They got big bodies, and you got Gibson and Pugh and Harmon House. Harmon House is 6'4", 6'5" as well. He's a body. Where are they at for you? Hudson Van Alphen is starting to shoot it. You touch on Eagle first, and then I'll jump on it.
For me, honestly, they have the talent, they have the size, they have the potential, but for me, potential that's not fulfilled is nothing. And so when I look at them and look at the games that they've lost, how did they lose them? Did you compete hard enough? And that's where I would challenge them. Are you going to compete all 4 quarters as hard as you possibly can without any regard to what the result is going to be? And that to me is what makes them a little bit different, because if they do compete, because I've seen those guys, I mean, I know it was last year's team, but those guys upset Mountain View #1 and just put it on them. Yeah. But those guys came ready to play. Yeah. This year's team, I've seen them get out and get in transition and run, and it's been flashy, and Russ has been dropping the dimes, he's been picking up points. Cal has been dominating, dunking the ball, just playing out of his mind. Hudson's getting back in the flow of things. The big Perkins kid, I really like him. Yeah. And I think he's going to be super special. But I look at those guys, and it's like, where is the leadership overall? Mm-hmm. Is it consistent? Mm-hmm. And it's like you have a couple L's that you shouldn't have, or, you know, at least for us, we're a surprise. And for me, that shows a lack of leadership and a lack of effort. And because, one, if you're the biggest team in the state, there's no reason for you to get out rebounded. Yeah. If you're the biggest team in the paint or in the state, you should be leading the state in paint points. Yeah. You know, so and they have guys that can shoot. Cole's been playing pretty well. Hudson's been starting to find his rhythm. Russ has been playing pretty well as well, and I think he's really getting people the ball, and he's one of those guys that can get you 15 assists
Yeah.
and can get you 20, 30 points. So, and he's hitting threes, hitting free throws. So I really put it on to Russ because I think that how good he can be could lead them to places they want to go.
Yeah.
And that's because I've had a relationship with him, and I've just always had a high expectation for him. So a lot of it falls onto his shoulders.
Yeah.
Do you want to carry this team to the promised land, or they go as far as you go?
Yeah.
And that to me is, that team is they could be a lot better than what they're doing right now.
No, I completely agree. And I picked them, I think, 5th because of the leadership question. Like what's going to happen with this team? You lose a guy like Landon White. The year before you had Donovan Jones, like guys like that. So Russ can do it. Russ is one of the first kids I trained and I coached when I got out here. I've known Russell. I know him better than anybody else out here when it comes to ball players and whatnot. So we know it's in him. He can dominate a game without scoring. I believe he leads the state in assists right now. Can they put it together? They have, in my opinion, one true playmaker, and it's Russell. A guy that you want to put the ball in his hands, go make plays for other guys, simplify the game for other guys, which is important. And I think Alex Coe is that for Timberline.
Right.
Other than Alex Coe, there's not a lot of guys that are making plays for other guys. They're big and physical, offensive rebounding, all that. And it's similar with Eagle. Cody runs some good sets. I like the back door they ran for years. Cole Pugh finds guys on that. But when it comes to putting the ball in a guy's hands and say, go make a play, you got Russell. And then when you see a Whitey dog him, wear him out by halftime, and then what? And that's why Eagles played a Whitey twice, and it's closer early, and then it just fades and it goes because they dog Russ. They know, all right, let's wear him down, let's make him work, and then who's gonna be a playmaker for them? I don't know. Hayden Robideau off the bench is a shifty guard. I want to see him play with more confidence because he can be a playmaker. I've seen him do it for years at the club level and with Mustang Basketball Club. But Cole Pugh is playing well. The best basketball he's played, in my opinion, in his high school career. Cole Pugh is doing a great job. He wants to guard the other team's best player. He looks forward to playing against guys like Liam Campbell and Alex Coe and those guys. He wants to get after him. He's got that corner three. He's got a floater. He got a mid-range game. He's doing good things. They need to get Hudson Van Alphen more looks.
Right.
Like, in my opinion, Hudson Van Alphen needs to get more looks. He needs to be shooting 6 to 10 threes a game. He's that type of shooter. He's one of the best shooters in Idaho, and he's not shooting the ball enough. And maybe that's on him, a confidence thing. But he's a guy that I remember when he was a sophomore playing with Donovan Jones and those guys, the elevator screens, the flares, everything they were running for him, and it opened things up. And that's when they beat a Waihe at Eagle in that crazy game.
He works. That kid, let me tell you a story about him. Hudson Van Alphen is one of the most genuine, loving, just pure-hearted kids I ever have been blessed to be around and be a part of their journey. But to find a kid that works as hard as he has and go through the adversity that he's faced, it's something to applaud, and it's inspiring, and it's actually helped me throughout my days knowing that this kid that would put in 2-3 days with me and then get an injury, come back, do it again the next year, get an injury, and then come back, and then now it's his senior year, and he's still out there competing. He's still giving forth the effort. He's still putting in extra shots. He's still doing all these things, and he's doing it with a smile on his face.
Yeah.
That kid right there, like if they got him 6 to 10 threes, I guarantee you he's hitting at least half of them, at the very least. And so, because he puts in the work. He puts in the work. He has unwavering confidence, and the only thing that would ever hold him back is just the past trauma of getting hurt.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, shooting that ball, lights out.
Yeah. I think like they at this point, in my opinion, Cody Pickett knows what he's doing, right? But I think Hudson Van Alphen is a guy that there's certain guys you need to run sets for,
right.
and they do. Cody does. He always has. But Hudson needs to find a way. They need to find a way, and it's on Russ.
Right.
Part of it's on Russell to make sure. Okay, I need to get my shooter. Harmon House is a guy that, in my opinion, can shoot the ball too and get going quick.
Right.
And so they have guys that can do things. They have the physicality, the athleticism. They've got the true point guard. Miguel Taylor is a guy that needs to find his confidence, needs to get to the rim. He has a pull-up jumper, mid-range jumper. He can shoot the ball from outside. He's a guy that's been banged up lately. They need to get him healthy, and Eagle needs to go be who Eagle is. Every year, Eagle should be a team that gets to the tournament. This year, it's a question mark for me, and we'll touch on that later. So let's jump over to a team that they recently beat. I believe it was on the road. It was Capital, who I saw play this weekend. Let's talk about Capital. Capital is also a curious case, a team we were talking about before the camera started rolling. Capital has a starting five that, from a basketball standpoint, can play with any starting five. They should be able to play with any starting five. They've got a little bit of depth. They got guard off the bench, number one. Yasin, I think it is.
Yasin.
Yeah, Yasin. I like his game, his confidence. He brings some energy and a spark. They've got some size off the bench, some physicality. They got a freshman that comes off the bench that can hoop.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah,
He's going to be nasty.
He can hoop. He's one of the top freshmen I've seen this year, and he's going to be tough. But the starting five with Clay, who can go for 30 any night with that strap, he needs to be a guy that catches and shoots. He's a dog on defense as well. And then you got Teleria and you've got McNamara, who's put on some muscle, and he's a scorer. He's a guy that you run things for. He can facilitate. And then you got the seniors, Makai Durrell and Ibrahim Talasso. Ibrahim Talasso, for me, is in the first team All-SIC conversation. But I think Ibrahim Talasso should be in the Player of the Year conversation. I don't think Ibrahim Talasso gets the ball enough in spaces to work. My opinion, I think he should lead your team in shots along with maybe McNamara every game. Ibrahim Talasso one-on-one is a problem. He's a Ginobili type guy that when he goes left, you know he's going left. Good luck stopping it though. Okay, he's the most athletic player in the league, in our opinion, along with maybe a Cal Hewish and whatnot. But Talasso is the most athletic player in the league, and he dominates the glass. He dominates around the rim, and he got the mid-range. He can hit some free throws, and he can shoot. He can hit an open three. And then you got Makai Durrell, who's 6'7", and is playing super efficient and confident this year. He's gotten better, and he knows his role. And this is the best basketball I've seen him play. Right. He's hitting shots. He's good around the rim. He moves without the ball, and he's blocking shots. Talasso's blocking shots. I got a reel for him on some of the block shots he's gotten, but I don't think they're functioning the way I would like to see them function personally, with Talasso being the focal point along with McNamara, and then Teleria, Clay, and Durrell. They can shoot the ball along with McNamara. You got 4 shooters and you got Talasso. I'm probably going 4 out, 1 in, stop him. And if you don't stop him, you got to help. We got shooters, move the ball, catch and shoot. That's efficient basketball to me. I think it's that simple for them. Blaz knows what he's doing. They've gotten better each year. But this is their year, bro. If they don't get to state this year, it's an underachievement for me. They didn't reach their goal. This is the team that can make a run. They got the guys that can make a run. Okay, they lost to Centennial the other day at home, a game that they were on the cusp of blowing open. They got up 8-10 in the third and started locking up and could have ran away with it, but they didn't. They had their chances and didn't. Centennial missed free throws. They didn't capitalize. Should have won that game.
They missed free throws.
They missed free throws too. Free throws. Exactly. They got to learn how to close. I just think Talasso needs to be more of the focal point, and it may be too late for that, but he is something.
Yeah, he's special. That kid is special. I even had to message him after the game like, yo, you're a beast. And for me, he is the most athletic player in the league. Like, yeah, he is baby Zion. The stuff that he can do from blocking shots, getting left, the in-out dribble, bump, create contact, finish with the left, dunking on people, catching lobs off the glass. He's one of those guys that, I mean, I would give him the ball, like you said, and get out the way. And just, and once they start trying to double and triple, kick it out.
Like, he can pass the ball.
He could pass. And I think Makai, he's one of those guys that, to me, he's like the Swiss Army knife because he could do so much. And I think, honestly, he's one of those people that some of these things can fall on because you need more from him because he's that good. He's showed it. He's hitting step back threes. He's dunking on people. Like, he had a play. He went reverse and dropped it in, could have punched it. Yeah. And it's like, you see that, and then you're waiting. You're waiting again. It's like just being aggressive. And I challenge the guards. David is a worker. That dude's a worker. And he's one of those kids that I've seen grow all the way up, and he's always putting the time. He loves this game. He lifts. He does everything right. And I needed him to be more aggressive. I needed Selly to be more aggressive because I look at a guy that when I look at these player of the games and I see dudes have 23, 25, 26, then I show up to a game and they've shot twice. for me, it's like, I came to watch you. I came to see what you can do and see it firsthand. And so, because I've seen the numbers, I've read about it, I've seen some of the highlights. That's what we came to watch. And those guys, when they play fast, they're a totally different team. And so when they let teams control the tempo of them and they're not playing as feisty or as physical on defense, it changes how they play. They need to be the brutes. They need to be playing a little bit feistier. They need to reach a little more. They need to gamble more. That's them. That's their identity. And I think a lot of how their team operates is from their defense. They don't really have to run sets. All of those guys can create their own shot. Every one of them, 1 through 5 on that starting 5. And then bringing off Yassine off the bench, he can create his own shot. Dakin Lowe has a swag to him. And his senior, watch out, he's going to be a beast.
Yeah.
Like, they have guys that can do it. And I know we're missing a couple guys that they're also on their team, but they have so many dudes that could come in and hoop and could pick up full court. And, and so for me, one of the things that I kind of was sad about, not sad, but like kind of disappointed in was how they fell apart. Like, you're missing free throws, you stopped competing as hard as you were, and then you look at the result of that Centennial game, you gave them the game. You had a point where you were up. And, Centennial rode that momentum from the crowd and from the environment, and they let it take them, to the win. So for me, Capital is my dark horse team.
Same.
I think that they're going to be a team that shocks people. I think that they got guys that can go. Like, those guys can hoop. That starting 5 is nice. Their top 8 guys can all play, and they could all contribute in their own ways. So for me, they're going to be the team to look out for, and depending on matchups, they're going to be the team to upset some people.
My question there is on the floor, who is their leader? I don't know those guys personally enough. I know Selly a little bit. I know Talasso a little bit. I know Darrell a little bit, but I don't know Dave. I don't know Zaya real well. But leadership on the floor, that comes down, like, those guards need to lead that team to victory at that point. Especially, you got Coach's kid out there, like Isaiah knows better than anybody what Blaz wants.
Right.
And I think I'm with you. As a dark horse team, I think they can put it together. I think they need to find a way to finish here in the next couple weeks and find a rhythm and go make a run, because that team can make a run.
Right.
But I'm ride baby Zion.
Right.
Ride him.
Right.
Like, give him the ball at the high post and he's going downhill. Good luck. Right. I went and played pickup at Axiom a few weeks ago with Austin Bolt, and Talasso was there. Talasso and Bolt went at it. I talked to him a little bit after, and he's a confident kid. He's a good kid. And he seems like he's a pretty good teammate. Give him the ball.
Right.
Give him the ball.
He's
let him work.
Too.
Yeah.
Built.
He'll simplify the game for everybody around it, because one-on-one is going to be tough to stop him. You may get a stop, but you're not going to hold him down. Right. It's not going to happen for me. So Capital is a curious case. I'm excited to see what they do. We got a couple teams left. I think we got Centennial, Meridian, and Owyhee. And if I forgot anybody, let me know. But let's talk about Centennial, who just beat Capital in the real CHS game at Capital, which I was disappointed that Capital team didn't find a way to win that game, it being a rivalry game, and this Centennial team being young. They got 4 guards who are, this team, even this year, where they've come, they got 1 loss in the state of Idaho. It was at Boise in overtime, and we talked about Boise can be that team. Centennial's the type of team who has always been live and die by the 3, which means they can lose to teams like Boise, but then they can beat teams like Meridian and Capital, and we'll see what they can do against Owyhee, because that's a big question mark about how some of these guys are going to perform against top-tier defensive competition. And I say Timberline's a top defensive team in the league, aside of Owyhee. Owyhee's the team to beat in every aspect. But Centennial, Gabe Edens, for me, is one of the most difficult players, if not the most difficult player to guard one-on-one, along with a guy like, obviously, Liam Campbell, Bowden Howell, Logan Haas-Veit. You got Talasso, who you're just talking about. Gabe Edens averaged 26 a game this weekend. They got 2 big wins at home against Timberline, and then on the road in a rivalry game against CHS after playing the night before overtime with Timberline. They came out and they found a way. Josh Oppersbach, like you said last week, players coach. They play for him. They sacrifice for him. They believe in him. He believes in them. It's reciprocated. It's easy to tell, and that's why guys transfer there. Didon transferred there. Tibbetts transferred there. You got guys wanting to go play for Josh because of what Jackson Welch, Bodie. Those guys. He's getting those type of guys because of who he is and what these guys hear about the type of coach he is. Gabe Edens had to decide where he wanted to go to high school, And he went to the state tournament the year with Weston Johnson, Will Johnson, Ty Shipp, Caden Christensen, Hayden Fletcher, that group. He went and watched them play, and he's like, that's who I want to play for. Now they got Gabe Edens, who is one of the top sophomores in the state, along with your boy Logan Hosfite. They're 1 and 2 for me. And Gabe Edens is popping, and he's growing, and he's developing. And if he can continue to refine his game and find ways to make guys around him better, which will simplify the game for him even more, because you got guys like Peyton Knutson who can pop for 20 and a half. Right. And you got Chase Tibbetts, who may be the biggest Swiss Army knife along with a guy like Mekhi Durrell in the league. Guy just doing everything. You got a guy like Jay Allen, Cam Downey, Jackson Rogers. You know, Hosfite's doing it this year. Like, Tibbetts is right there. Right. A guy that's doing that. He's tough going to the basket. He's shooting with confidence because he plays with Oppersbach. Oppersbach, like you said last week, is if you don't shoot the ball, get out the game. Right. Have some confidence. This ain't last year. Right. You with us now. I love that. Love that. And then Henry Johnson, maybe the most underrated player in the league. He is, boom, taken off. And a guy that just decided to start training with you, which is going to be the best thing he ever did. One of the highest IQ kids in the entire state, just like his brother Weston was. Will was the same way. High IQ, understands where guys are, understands their strengths, understands how to get them open, understands that he's a high percentage three-point shooter. Guys are getting him looks. He had 13 the other day and made game-changing defensive plays and was making plays for other guys. And he changed the game. Gabe Edens was player of the game. Henry Johnson could have been player of the game. Even though he had 13, Gabe had 22. The other things Henry did that weren't on the stat sheet changed the game, kept them in the game. He had a defense. They were down 8. He had a defensive play where he got a steal. They went down, got a bucket, changed the momentum of the game. Game changer. Henry Johnson for them. And then, of course, Edward Simi is a guy that a worker, plays his role, okay, lets guys create layups for him, rebounds, defends, plays much bigger than he is. And tonight they play Eagle. This is going to get posted down the road, but they play Eagle. It's going to be interesting to see how he handles Hewish and these guys, because if he can keep them off the glass to an extent, Centennial can win that game against Eagle. That's going to be a fun one. What's your feeling on Centennial?
First I want to talk about Edward first. I think he's one of the players in the league that he doesn't get enough love. Like, he does a job that nobody wants to do. He rebounds, he defends, he's the talker on the screens, he's the guy that's always in help. He's always in a position where nobody wants to be in. He's done a great job of it. He doesn't complain. He just goes out there and he plays hard. Sometimes he gets the ball, sometimes he doesn't. So shout out to him. He's been playing his role phenomenally. Gabe Edens, that team, the ability that he has to make shots at all 3 levels, and even miss a shot and then come down and hit a tougher shot. Like, he had a play where I think he had airballed a shot, then gets it back and then hits it again, and then hits another one, and then hits a third one. And it's like, he wasn't even fazed by missing or any of the chance or any of that. And so for me, seeing his ability to score and in the variety of ways that he's been scoring, he's playing with the utmost confidence. He's got a green light. He has a bag in all 3 levels. And I think it's been huge for them. And they've needed every one of his 26 points per game that he's had over the last 2. He's had a couple 30 balls already, a couple 28, 29s. And they've needed that from him. So he's been, he's definitely been eye poked. Like, he's been popping out. Could be a first-team all-guy. I would say he's a first-team all-guy so far from what I've seen. Yeah. Henry Johnson, I love the kid. The kid works hard. He's super smart. He doesn't need much. And he does things that, like you said, go unseen. Deflections. He had a ton of deflections. He had a couple steals along the sideline that, changed the pace of the game, changed the outcome of the game. And he makes free throws. He makes threes. He's fearless. So, shout out to him. Chase Tibbetts, one of my guys. He's just a tough kid. Got busted up in the Timberline game, busted up lip. Dudes talking trash to him about me, talking trash to him about himself, all types of wild stuff. And he just plays. He competes. He doesn't care about, he's not a guy that at the end of the game goes and looks at the stats and goes, oh, I'm this, I'm that, or I played bad because I didn't. No, he's a dude who, as long as that's a W, that's all he cares about, and he'll do whatever it takes to win. So he's a guy that I think that could be more aggressive. He could take more chances on himself. He's now learning, this is his first year in varsity, he's now learning that he has a green light and he has the ability to score, and that if he turns the ball over, if he makes a mistake, he's going to play through it. He had 2 turnovers in this game against Capital and then hits 2 fourth-quarter threes. Yeah. And he played through it. And it's like, you can say what you want about him. The kid's going to compete. And as long as you believe in him, he's going to run through a wall for you. And I know that kid works. We shot that day. He shot 700 shots before the game. So it's like that kid is putting in the work. And physically strong, stronger than most, can box squat 405. So he puts in the weight room work. He puts in the skill work. He goes to the gym on his own and shoots. I'm proud of that kid and his growth and his development. It's his first year playing varsity. Yeah. So cut him some slack for the people that want to hate on him.
Yeah.
He's growing, he's learning, he's competing. And that team's only lost one game in the state of Idaho. So he's playing really well. I would say Peyton Knutson is one of those kids. For me, he's a 2K guy. Like some of the shots he shoots, I'm like, what? Oh, bucket.
Money.
And it's just unexpected. He's super quick. He's a dog on the defensive end. He can pick up full court. He has a never die attitude. And he's a dude who can fill it up. He can score it. Some of the shots are unorthodox and kind of catch you off guard, but he makes them.
Yeah.
I think a guy that played, two guys I'm going to shout out to, Levi Phillips, I want to say.
Levi Phillips played great.
He played great in that Capital game, gave them energy, was competing, fighting, taking chances on himself. And so I want to give him a shout out. And then Brody Welch. Yeah. Brody Welch came to the game against Timberline, hadn't seen much time, comes in, makes the game winning steal, lays the ball in, and was happy for his teammates. And that, to me, that says a lot about that team. Are you able to still put the team first even when your situation isn't the best? And that's something that he did in both of those games. Came and had a big part in that Capital game as well. So shout out to those guys. Centennial's been balling.
Yeah,
they've been balling.
Yeah, Knutson wants to pick up full court, wants to wear you out. I would love to be going to that game tonight against Eagle to see him and Russ go at it. Knutson can go for 30 at any minute with the shot. And he's like Gabe. I don't care if I miss. Give me the ball back. I'm making the next one. And you got multiple guys like that. And Edens is a sophomore. Knutson is a junior. Levi Phillips is a junior. Tibbetts is a junior. Henry Johnson is a sophomore. Look out for Centennial. Look out for Coach Oppersbach again, but look out for him this year.
Right.
And we'll end it with that here in a few minutes. We got Meridian and Owyhee, the top two teams. We're going to finish with these guys, do a quick prediction of who we think is going to make the state tournament. And then we'll be done. But Meridian, Coach Sainer always has his guys playing. Was disappointed they lost to Mountain View, but that starting five, once again, like Capital for me, can play with anybody. Duncan Pierce, Griffin Deere, Tristan Fortin, Ryan Baker. Who am I missing? I'm missing a baller.
TJ.
Yeah, TJ, Coach's son, TJ Sainer. Shout out TJ, who his range is next level. TJ Sainer. And clutch too. He had a clutch 3 against Mountain View in the sneaky sneaker. Yeah. So TJ Sainer's game is just going like this, and he's going to have them ready to play. I think that Mountain View loss is going to do wonders for them. I think we're going to see
blasted Nampa.
Yeah, we're going to see a different Meridian team from here on out. It's going to make them more dangerous. They've got some big games coming up as well. They still have to see Centennial. They got to see Eagle. They got to see some of these teams. I think they play Owyhee again. They may or may not play Owyhee again. But I'm excited to see what Coach Jeff can do with this team. I've said at the start of the year, I think Madison is a team who can beat Owyhee, and I'm never counting out a Sainer team to not be able to play with anybody.
Right.
Like we saw them play with Owyhee for 3 quarters, and then they fell apart in the 4th quarter. So they can play with Owyhee as well. What's your feel on this year's team?
They have depth. I'll put it like this. Are they going to be able to maintain good body language the entire game from the start to the finish? Not only that, are you going to be happy for a teammate if a teammate is doing better than you are currently in that game or in that moment? That to me is what for them is going to be the biggest thing. When they're all happy and shining and happy for each other's success, that team's hard to beat. Because Coach Sainer is so good at the X and O's and just getting those guys prepared. They defend well. But they have so many players that could contribute, and if they were at other places, would contribute a lot at these other programs. But for what they have and what they can do within, Jeff lets them play. He allows them to be who they are, allows them to be themselves. And a lot of times when we have a coach that would allow us to do that, but we're so used to just holding back or, oh, coach isn't letting me, it's like, no, we held ourselves back. As soon as he puts you on that floor and says, go play, you have a chance. That's your opportunity. Whether you make the most of it or not is up to you. Yeah. You can't blame coach when you're out there. So, if you miss a shot and he says something, we could have got a better one, doesn't mean not shoot. But, again, you have to be aggressive out there. You can't just go out there and just be one of those guys that catches it and moves it. You have to compete. You have to take chances on yourself. And they have so many guys that can do that, that can
Yeah.
fill it up, that can, guys coming off the bench that could contribute more than they
Yeah.
currently are.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it just depends on what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And then I think a lot falls, in my opinion, I feel like a lot falls on Ryan Baker's shoulders and TJ Sanders' shoulders.
Yeah.
Those two guys are those main scorers that they have. A lot falls on them. Are they finding each other? Are they creating shots for each other? Are they creating shots for others? How is their body language? How are they leading? I think a guy that you could get more from is the point guard, Griffin.
Yeah.
He's one of the most athletic, fast players in the league that can fill it up too.
He got a bag around the basket.
And he has a finishing package. So, and he's a dog. That he can give you more. I've coached him, and I've seen it myself firsthand. When he goes out there and plays with confidence and takes chances on himself, teams usually play pretty well.
Yeah.
And so the one thing I would say is they need a true leader.
Yeah.
It can't just be Jeff. It needs to be a leader with on the floor.
Yeah.
If they have that, watch out.
Yeah, Ryan Baker is one of the best players in the state. We saw it last year in the semis when he had 28 on a Whitey and just
And he's clutch.
crashed the party. Yeah, clutch. Cold-blooded. He hit the three to send him to state against Lewiston. Had to hit that three to beat Lewiston up there in Grangeville. So they have a guy who can carry. TJ's playing the best basketball I've seen him play. His range is out to 35 feet at this point. But guys off the bench, they have some physical guys off the bench, some guys that can shoot off the bench. Fisher Okamika, you got Hunter White, you got Ty Brummer, and then the top freshman I've seen in the state this year is Drake Hope.
Yeah.
And I want to see Drake Hope get a little bit more I want to see his teammates, and it's a leadership thing, like you just said, instill more confidence in him. Drake,
Yeah, he need more time.
He
need more time in there. Because the thing is, we haven't even seen. We've seen spurts. I seen him hit a Kobe shimmy fadeaway the other day, and I'm like,
that highlight
okay.
was.
Then you see the warm-ups in the Sneaky Sneaker game, dunking everything.
Yeah.
So it's like, I just want to see him out there.
Yeah.
Like, give him a shot. Let him rock.
He and Jeff's the type of guy that as we get later in the year, Jeff's the type of guy that'll throw him in there more often. Jeff knows. So let's end with a Waihe. Not a lot to say about a Waihe except for look out, because this team is coming. This team is a team I would love to have seen play that Lake City team last year with Buchanan and those guys. This is the best Waihe team we've seen, in my opinion. Jack Payne was a difference maker, but just all around, when in my opinion, you're bringing the top overall true point guard in the league off the bench, then you got something special. And you've got who, in my opinion, was player of the year in the league last year, Logan Hosfite, having to play more of be more of a role guy, and because you got Bowden Howell with the Division I offer, you got Liam Campbell here, who's USC, you got Jackson Rasmussen, who maybe is up for player of the year right now. He's in that conversation, along with obviously Liam and whatnot. You've got last year's player of the year coming in, and he's essentially a fourth option. And Logan Hosfite, let's get something straight. And we talked about this. You put Logan Hosfite back on Mountain View, he's 20 plus a game. He's doing what Edens is doing. He's doing what Talasso is doing or should be doing. He's doing those things. So that's your fourth option. And then you've got Jackson Rogers and Cam Downey and Jace Allen, who would be balling on any other team. Balling. Guys that are talking about first conference guys. So it's interesting. Waihe's interesting. They're super tough. They're super tough defensively. Don't have a lot to say about them because we, down the road, will have a full conversation about Waihe, who they are, what the program's doing and whatnot. But Waihe's a team to beat. They're the best defensive team in the state. They're the best offensive team in the state. We saw that against Meridian when they were up 1 to start the fourth against Meridian and ended up winning by 21 against a Meridian team that's probably the third or fourth best team in the state. So, Waihe, what do you got to say?
I would just say that these guys work.
Yeah.
And that's what separates them is the work. You got guys coming in at 5 a.m. every day of the week. You got guys shooting before and after practice. You got workouts on the weekends. And I'm just going to be real, like, there's never been an excuse on why they can't get in the gym. They're always making the effort. There's no, I'm tired. They just go. And so for them, why they're in the position that they're in, is they just work. And they take all the hate, they take all of the gossip, and they just kind of like shove it up.
Yeah.
To everybody else, So at least that's what I've seen. And, you can call us biased, but your eyes are not going to lie to you. And, so far from what I'm seeing, they're punching everybody in the mouth, blasting teams, holding teams to scoreless in quarters. getting huge margins of victory and playing everybody. You got different guys stepping up. You got different opportunities, and like for them to think they still haven't figured it completely out yet either.
No.
And so if they're at this point and this good right now and they still haven't figured it out, where are they headed?
Oh.
And so that's kind of like the thing. If you're really watching basketball and you take away the bias, you take away the hate, you take away all of that, and you look at their roster, you look at how they play together, you look at how they're coached, you look at how they're prepared. Yeah. The coaching staff is watching film. The coaching staff is breaking it down to them. They are more invested into this game than any other program from what I've seen.
Yeah.
And if you can hate me for saying it, but that's the truth. So, they're changing the game, and it's like I would love for somebody to challenge them.
Yeah, 100%. So before we end here real quick, I'm going to give you the opportunity to pick 4 teams you think from this league currently right now that it's mid-season, we got a couple weeks left before the district tournament. Pick 4 teams who you think are going to make the state tournament, and then a 5th team who you think is a play-in team who could also make the state tournament. I can go first if you need a minute, unless you
go first.
I'll go first. Owyhee for me, Meridian for me. Then it gets interesting. I'm going to go Centennial based on what I'm seeing. And then I'm going to go Timberline. And then the team that I think, this is there's so many, there's Mountain View, there's Boise, but I think I'm going to go with Capital in that 5th spot for me. A team that could be a play-in team, or even a team that just gets there by winning a couple games at the district tournament. The top 3 seeds get a bye, and everybody else has to play to get into the district tournament, which is going to be wild.
Right.
That's going to be wild. But yeah, I'm going to go Owyhee, Meridian, and I'm going to go with Centennial because I'm on that Centennial high after seeing them lately. I believe in Noble and the defense and rebounding, and Alex Cohen, those guys over there at Timberline. And then I'm going to go with Capital. I think Capital does it. I think they get to the tournament and are going to be a tough matchup. I'd love to see them on that big floor at the Idaho Center. They'd be fun to watch.
I'll go Owyhee, Meridian. I'll say Timberline, Centennial. And then my 5th, I don't know. That's hard because I'm leaving out.
You got Eagle, you got Mountain View, you got Capital, you got Boise.
My 5th is going to be Mountain View.
Mountain View
in the play-in. And then, to be honest, though, I think I can exchange. It'll be between Timberline, Centennial, and Eagle for me that gets in, but I think Mountain View will be in the play-in.
Mm-hmm. And then there's a Capital team. And
right.
And then Middleton is a team that we've seen. That's the thing about the league, and it's so fun. And we're gonna get a lot of guys being like, oh, whatever. Shut us up, prove us wrong. That's just based on what we've seen so far. We'll have another conversation about it once we get the district tournament bracket.
Right, because I think Capital could be in there too. Like Capital's my team that I think will get to state. When I'm looking at the grand scheme of things and how they played Centennial. And I just got to see more. Did they beat Timberline? I don't think they beat Timberline. They lost Timberline twice. So they played them closer the second time. But it's like I got to see. And then for me, Eagle is a team that I'm like should be a shoo-in. So, but I don't know. I haven't seen it. So for me, it's going to be Centennial's on the hot streak right now. So you got to rock with them. Meridian is just different. Them and Owyhee are just two. For me, those are 2 programs that are just different. And I think Mountain View has the talent. And I know they do, and when it comes time to show up, they do. So
Nettleton always finds a way to get there. That's the truth
and
about John.
And Timberline's been. I mean, what can you say? They only have 2 losses.
They always get there too. One thing's for sure, it's going to be fun, and that may change based on the district tournament play-in matchups.
Right.
We could see matchups and be like, they may not even get into the district tournament. Right. One of the teams we just mentioned. But between the 2 of us may not even get into the district tournament because of the balance and the ability 1 through 13 has. So it's going to be fun. That is the one thing that is for sure. It's going to be fun. This was an extended episode. We wanted to touch on every team. I believe we hit every team.
Right.
If we didn't, apologies. But I try to do it off the top of my head. But let's end in prayer and on to the next one.
All right.
Heavenly Father, we appreciate you and everything you do for us. Just continue to use us as your instruments to bless others and to speak life into others and positivity and love. And thank you just that we have a chance to use this platform to speak on something that we love, which is the game of basketball, which is ultimately a tool to build relationships and touch others' lives through the game. And thank you for Coach Key and what he does and what he's about in his heart. Idaho is blessed to have him, and every kid he trains knows that is the truth. So thank you so much for everything that you've done for us, you give us, and keep everybody healthy moving forward. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Episode 7 a wrap.
Yes, sir.